Hi. So I wanted to take today and talk a little bit about this guitar. This is a Johnson. I don't even know what the model number is without looking into it. I think JGUIOCEN, handcrafted in China. And in talking about the guitar, I wanted to talk a little bit about how we change and how we use the things that are around us, and how the initial purpose of an instrument that we have can change over time. And maybe that's an allegory for personal life, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's literally just, what do I do with my old gear that I have laying around that I can't sell? Because honestly, this thing on the open market is worthless. I bought this in Chicago about 2002 for $100. And the reason why I thought that it was worth $100 wasn't because it sounded good or it was the best looking guitar or it had a great name or whatever, but it was worth $100 because it came with a hard shell case. And that was worth something, especially having to lug it about, or the train. Couldn't tell you what music store I bought it from. I couldn't tell you. It seemed kind of cramped. And I think that this was on the floor, and it was $100, and it came with a case. And I picked it up, and I had it with me for a while, and it was the only acoustic guitar I had. Everything else at the time was electric. I wasn't really playing guitars in any of the bands that I was in. I was, mainly a vocalist, and I don't know why I bought it. I wasn't gigging around with it until I moved to Lafayette, Indiana, and then on to Las Vegas, and I started playing with this more often. Coffee shops and hosting open mics and things like that. And when I started playing a little bit more seriously, working gigs in Vegas, this became the daily player. We ended up getting a gig at a place called the Freakin' Frog, and that was, I think, every Thursday maybe, or I don't even know how it happened, but this was the thing that I played every day. And the more that I played, the more I became aware that it was not a very good guitar. The tone was bad, the action was bad, the fretting was not amazing. It was a beast. It was like playing an iron girder. I remember though, we were playing a gig at the Freakin' Frog, and one night the jack, which is right here, caved in. I don't know how it happened, but I'm really lazy with my guitars, and I have a tendency to just plop them straight down, and maybe somebody came and put their hand on it and crushed it down. But regardless, the jack was broken in, and it had to be sent in for repairs, which I believe cost as much, if not more, than the total price of the guitar. But it was the only acoustic guitar I had, and we were mainly an acoustic rock act. That's what we sold ourselves as. And as we got to playing more, I noted that, I needed a better instrument to be able to play, because we were starting to get more gigs. And so I bought a Tailor that I did an unboxing for earlier on this channel, a 315 CE. And this went away. It got put, I don't even know if it made it into its hard shell case, but it got put into its hard shell case, and it got stored and didn't come out for a long, long time. Every once in a while I would pop it out, or somebody would come over and they would want to play with me, and so I would have this on hand and we could break this out. My dad, probably played this more than I did for the time. And we moved and we moved and we moved again. And lately I dragged this out because I've just been moving it so much, and I was like, there has to be something that I could do. And what I did was I ended up stringing it up in a high-strung fashion. So all these four are up, I think 2 octaves, I'm not totally sure. And then these are normal, so that when you play it, it almost sounds like when you play this with a regular guitar, it sounds like you're playing a 12 string, but you have a little bit more control. And I've never been able to really fret a 12 string very well, especially if I'm doing any type of finger picking. And also, I don't own a 12 string. I haven't wanted to buy one because, they're expensive, and whenever I've played them, I haven't been able to play them very successfully, and I figured, well, this would be nice because I don't always want a 12 string. It's almost like having a unitasker. The only reason to use a 12 string is to have a 12 string sound, but this is nice because it adds a little bit of high end in recordings where you can get that 12 string sound out of it. And you can tell it's not, you know, and I admit I'm a better vocalist than I'm a guitar player. I've gotten better over the years, but now it has been on 3 or 4 of the last couple projects that I've done. It's a nice tool to have in the arsenal because it gives you that kind of high end, especially if you're doing if you're doing an acoustic thing and you're, bari tenor, even a higher tenor, and you're playing an acoustic guitar and you have bass and you have drums. There's so much mid-range frequency that's, fighting for competition that it's nice to have something that you can play way up there to take advantage of the high-end shimmer that digital recording gets you. Even if we end up taking it out with tapes and analog equipment and all that other stuff, even if we roll some of it off, it's still nice to have just a little bit of that high end. So, what's all that mean? I mean, does it mean that your Sears Roebuck guitar that you have from your grandmother is going to be worth anything to you recording? I don't know. I know that the gentleman from Cake, I think, famously plays some relatively inexpensive instruments and used relatively inexpensive instruments when doing the recording. It's kind of a thing. And maybe that's more to, I don't use them to purposefully sound cheaper or anything like that. But it is a journey. And I think it's an interesting journey because, this guy started off as being the daily gigger, and then it went into storage and it was forgotten about, and then it kind of, came back out and is now this like secret weapon that I have that I really enjoy using, and I don't think you would know it was there, but you would know if it was missing from, some of the recordings. And I think that maybe is a little bit of I don't know if allegory is the right word, but maybe an allegory for life and who we are as musicians or artists or creators, that the thing that we started doing, the thing that we had set out to be, may change, and maybe it even goes away for a while. Maybe we start creating, or we start a recording studio, or we start gigging out, and the next thing we can't do it anymore for whatever reason. Life comes at you pretty fast. There's still the opportunity. There's still the opportunity to come back, and maybe that opportunity doesn't always look like what you think it should look like. For this guy, the opportunity was to be a high-strung, a Nashville, strung guitar. And I would never in a million years put regular strings on this thing again and try to record with it. But as a high-strung, it sounds great. It's really useful, and I think that's where it's going to be for a long, long, long time. Because if I was to try to sell it, I would get $20 for it, maybe. More than likely, it would just get given away. And that's not to say that you have to repurpose all of your equipment, and that's not to say that you need to think about your life in this way or anything like that. I know that I've given some gear away for pretty cheap. I had a Laney amp that I just sold for very inexpensive. It was very inexpensive, and I think I gave away a Vox pedal with it because I didn't want it anymore. Didn't want to see it around. Didn't need it taking up space. It's not always what you set out for. It's not always what you intend to be. Just like with your gear or your music or your artistic or creative journey, it's not always going to be how you intended it to be, and for the reasons that you intended it to be. But I think as long as you're doing it, as long as this little guy is still out there making music, he's still you know, he's still something. He's not just a forgotten piece of equipment sitting around for his owner's grandchildren to find and wonder why would ever somebody, wonder why somebody would ever keep this piece of junk and then throw it away. So, all that being said, I hope that maybe you can, at the very least, look at some gear that you have maybe laying around, maybe look at it a little bit differently, if that's all that you get out of this. So, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. I know this wasn't the maybe the most uplifting thing in the world, but we're going to be starting on with a how to write a song journey. It's something that I might not be the best guitar player and I might not be the best singer, but I think I can write a pretty decent song, and I'm going to be sharing some of those the things that I've learned about writing songs in that. But wanted to start off today with just talking about this little guy. So I hope you have a great day. Make something amazing. Make your day amazing at the very least. And we'll see you soon. There's still a